What's going on, everybody? Just me, Josh. So, I've had at least one person so far ask, and I know there's probably a lot more wondering about my story and how things kind of came about. And I figured I could get the start on the story on what's been going on in my life. Um, Initial story. Uh, my initial accident, I guess you could say, happened in September 2023. At that time, I was working a job that I was working a rotating schedule. I was working 7 days on graveyards. I'd have 2 days off, 7 days on swing shift, 1 day off, and 7 days on mornings, 4 days off. And it would just repeat. And I had been doing that for a little over 3.5 years at that point. And, well, I averaged 20 to 30,000 steps. So I was running my rear end off a lot. And, well, in September 2023, I had an accident at work. I went ahead and I tripped over a couple hoses at work, and I hit the ground, and I hit hard, and a lot harder than I realized. And being my dumb self, I was trying to be a man and just walk it off. And when I hit the ground, I noticed initial numbness from my shoulders down and didn't know if I could get up, but I forced myself to get up off the ground and basically tried to walk it off. The job told me to go home and just to sleep on it, and the next day come back to work. And, well, that night when I got home, or morning I should say, because it was on morning shift, my wife told me, "You need to go and report that it's an accident." And I said, "No, I'm okay. I'll see how I feel in the morning." And when I woke up, I was hurting even worse. And so, yeah, I went ahead and reported it as an accident and went back to work. They ended up putting me on light duty for a while. And then in December, I'm sorry, October, I had a surgery to help me try to make babies with my wife because I was shooting blanks. And I ended up getting on a cane because the surgery was supposed to be in and out, and I couldn't feel or move my left leg at all, and I couldn't put weight on it. I couldn't move it, nothing. Like, it was just dead to the world. And I had an MRI on my lower back, and, well, everything was fine. And I used a cane, and I was on a cane for about a week, give or take a few days. And I was back to normal, just hurting like crazy constantly, but dealing with it. And I was on light duty at work. And I was lighting a pilot light at home, and I did something funny, weird. I'm not exactly sure, but I ended up back on my cane in December. And then I was on the cane in December. February, when I was no longer at work anymore. They took me off the light duty because they couldn't keep me on light duty anymore. And just was using the cane to move around. And then in May, I took my very first fall. And I caught myself, and I thought I was okay, and I wasn't. But I was. And I went to the hospital, and they checked me out because I kind of caught myself when I fell, so I was okay. And so about a week and a half later after that, I took my second fall, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have a scar on my forehead now because of my second fall. I was using a walker at that point. After the first fall, I had to use a walker to walk, and was trying to move around, and I went to go to the kitchen to get something to eat and decided I didn't want to. And as I went to turn around with the walker, both my legs gave out from under me, and I smashed my head onto the chest freezer of ours, and then onto a plug-in socket on the wall, and hit the ground hard again and couldn't move. And so went back to the ER, second ambulance trip. And they did a CAT scan and this, that, and the other thing, and said, "Oh, you're fine, you're good, no worries, you're okay." And I was like, "Okay, well, okay." And about a week and a half later, my mother-in-law was in town from Oklahoma, and she had been a nurse for 20 years. And I was sitting there and watching TV and stuff, and she noticed after about 4.5 hours or more that I had been trying to stand up. And I wasn't saying anything because, again, I was being my stupid, tough self. And I finally got up, and I was trying to go to the bathroom. There was a step down to get into our bathroom, and realized I wasn't going to make it. And her and my wife kind of helped me, and they ended up calling 911, and I had my third ambulance visit. And they did another CAT scan and everything else, and told me I was just constipated, and that was all that was the matter with me, and I was fine. And sent me home, even though I still could barely move or walk. And about a week and a half later, I went to a work comp appointment, and me and the wife got lunch. And on the way home, we had bought a wheelchair just for me to move around in at that point, because we didn't know what was going on. It's the one I'm actually rolling around the house here in all the time. It's a used one because it's the only thing that fits in the house. But anyways, we were got home, and there's a good size step to get into the house, and I had to use the wheelchair to get to the front door because I couldn't physically feel my right leg anymore. And went to get up and try to get up the step, and just couldn't get my feet to lift up. I couldn't get my leg, and me and my wife were struggling. And about probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes of struggling trying to get me in there, we finally got me. I got one foot up, and I got the other one to lift me up into the house. And I went to sit on the edge of the couch because it was close to the front door. And I got on the armrest, and I fell again. And ended up back in the ER because I was insisting, and I halfway argued with the firefighters that I was okay. I was going to be fine. Just get me up my lazy boy and I'll be good. I'm not planning on leaving the house. I'll be fine. And they were like, no, there's something seriously going on. There's got to be something wrong. Like, we've seen you 3 times in less than a month now, or a little over a month, whatever it was, timeline. And I was like, okay, fine, we'll go. And I get to the ER, and I get CAT scanned again, and I'm sitting in the back, and next thing you know, they move me into a little more private setting in the ER, which is like, okay, I'm all right, I guess they're going to admit me, no big deal. And they come in very sheepishly and heads down, and mind you, I've been to the same hospital all 4 times at that point, in the same ER, and pretty sure I had the same ER doctor twice. And they came in looking down at their paperwork all sheepishly, and they say, did you know you have a fracture in your back? And we can't tell for sure if it's T8 or T10. And I said, no, I had no idea. And yeah, and we can't MRI you or anything. We have to send you somewhere or send you home. And I was like, what? What do you mean? They're like, we can't do it. We had to send you somewhere. So I ended up going from where I was at to Mercy Hospital in Reading. And they were checking me out and doing what they need to do. And they took me in a heartbeat because my dad's a hospice chaplain for the hospital, and he just happened to run into one of the higher ups, and they asked him what was going on, and he told them, hey, my son's been hurt, and found out he's got a broken back, and they don't know what's going on. So they're like, get him here, we'll take care of him. And so they got me there. And after about a week and a half, I had 4 MRIs and a lumbar puncture. And the neurologist tells me, I can't confirm because I'm not your doctor, but you need a real neurologist to do things, but pretty sure you have MS. And they sent me to UC Davis down in Sacramento, where I spent 2 weeks. And it took another few months to get to a neurologist because of some issues with my insurance and so forth. But I found out I have MS and a broken back. And I was looking at my Facebook memories, and I forgot that I have a screwed up neck somewhat too, because at least it was I was compressed against my spinal cord. My neck was, so my neck wasn't in good shape either necessarily. And there's a whole lot of other stuff, and I'll probably tell more about my story and stories in the near future. But I figure I at least could start with how I initially found out I had MS and how I tried to walk off a broken back for 8 months. So, hope that gives you guys a little insight on what's going on with me and what I've had to go through. And just hope you continue with me in my story. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later.